Hello and welcome to HD's weekly talk show, The Interview, and our special segment, Coffee on Sunday, wherein we meet interesting people and take you and them through their journeys, their struggle, their fun moments, and their diversity. Our guest this week needs no introduction. She is a familiar face on screen. She has worked with well-known directors Shyam Benegal, Mani Ratnam and Adur Gopalakrishnan. But the role she essayed in the controversial film Fire was path-breaking. Need I say more? Her list of achievements is rather long. So let me just say, let us meet Nandita Das, actor, director, writer and a social activist in Coffee on Sunday. Welcome to the show, Nandita Das, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you so much, Kumkum.
Let me begin from doing your masters in social work to acting and then direction. So just tell me all about it.
Oh my God, that's
Oh
a
my
long
God.
journey, right? I mean, you're
Yes.
talking about 30 years of my life.
That's right.
But I actually want to go a little or piche,
Okay.
if you don't mind, because social work also was something that I stumbled upon. After my schooling, I did my bachelor's in geography. After geography, I didn't want to do it anymore, but I didn't know what to do. And I took a year off. What I really love doing is to be with people, to work with people. And I got to know there was something called Masters in Social Work. Then I did that at Delhi School of Social Work and then joined a couple of NGOs and I was working on issues of women and children. So a lot of the times people feel कि अच्छा actor बन गए, now you want to influence on social issues, but for me the journey was reverse. I think I carried those experiences and whatever the exposure to those issues were to my films and the choices I made in my films. So film was completely something I stumbled upon. I met Deepa Mehta through a friend and and she didn't even audition me. I was the first one to be cast. And then when Shabana Azmi was cast and I told Deepa, I said, please audition me. Here I'm going to be working with a veteran whose work I've grown up watching. And she was like, no, I'm sure that you'll be able to pull it off. And so after that, one thing led to the other. Direction was something also happened very organically. I mean, when the Gujarat riots happened in 2002, I was deeply impacted by it. I just felt like there's something that I want to really share and I want to tell this story. So very organically, it became an ensemble film with sort of 5 different stories that kind of come together. And that's how Firak was born. And then I thought I'm never going to make a film again. And then in 2012, it was Manto's centenary. And I, of course, knew about Manto. I'd read his short stories, but I didn't know how many, non-fiction work that he had done. So I was just sort of drawn to him. And I also feel like my father is very Manto-esque. He's a painter and, there were lots of parallels that I found with Manto. So I felt like I know this man. And that's how I started writing it. It was a very different space and Delhi की पली बड़ी हूँ तो हिंदी आती है हिंदुस्तानी जो हम बोलते हैं but still Urdu and going to Lahore, meeting the family, there was lots that went into it.
Deepa Mehta said you would pull it off and didn't audition you. Do you think in Fire you really pulled it off, or looking back you feel, oh, there were gaps?
There are always gaps. I mean, any work of mine, if I see it again, especially after a few years, 100% I would want to do it differently. And I think that's what artists feel, right? Because what you did at the moment was the best you could at that time. When you reflect, when you have that distance, of course you can do better.
You've done about 40 films, if I'm not mistaken. And you've worked with eminent directors like Shyam Benegal, Mani Ratnam. Do you choose your directors or do they choose you?
Well, as an actor, you are at the mercy of the projects that come to you. But yes, I have been very fortunate that I've worked with some very interesting directors. Yeah, but like I said, as an actor, you wait for the projects that come to you. And because I was actually a very hesitant actor in even those 40 films, like I never saw it as a profession or a career. For me, it was more sort of an interest, a passion, not even a passion actually, to be honest. It was more a means to an end. Because of the work that I had done, I felt like suddenly acting in a film is just reaching out to so many more people. So I didn't even think like an actor. I remember Shyam Benegal, he said, you have to get your activist thing out of your brain. You're an actor, you should be itching to do different kind of roles.
Did you take his advice?
I did.
So, in the same strain, let me ask you, are there more yeses than nos, or vice versa?
Vice versa.
When you are accepting or considering a role?
I think there were more no's because, once you're in it, you always do get fair amount of work. At least I did get a lot of work, but it's always not what you want. Substandard kaam to bahut hai. There's no dearth of work as such. But the kind of work that you'd really like. And I would say out of 40 films, I wouldn't say that every film was amazing or that I was proud of my decision. But I can say that I did all of those for the right reasons. How it turned out was beyond my control. But the reasons were always the story, then the director, and then the role.
Any regrets?
Not really. I mean, life, I generally don't regret anything because, when you look back, things, that moment you might have felt really bad. Maybe a little bit of regret of not being able to do water because I was in fire, I was in earth, it was a trilogy, I was going to work with Deepa again. I'd shaved my head for it, I had really long, straight, boring hair, but, just sort of, it was good getting rid of that vanity, but it was still something that role was, I'd read the script right from the beginning. And then unfortunately, because we were attacked and they had to change the cast, they had to change the location, both Shavana, Azmi and I couldn't do that film. So maybe a little regret on that. But yeah, otherwise.
Tell me about the color prejudice in Bollywood and instances of a makeup man saying, we want to lighten your skin. And also you're saying that the moment your class changes,
right,
the color of your skin must change.
Growing up as a dark person, there is no escaping in a country like ours. Somebody or the other is reminding you constantly. Growing up, you go to a shop, they will tell you, madam, isse aapka tan nikal jayega. And you say, listen, I'm born with this tan, I'm going to die with this tan and happily. So please don't tell me. Then when you get into films, every article of mine used to be dark and dusky Nandita Das, as if they had to qualify that, look, she's dark and yet she's an actor.
How much did that affect you?
Not really, in the sense, because intrinsically I didn't see that as my identity, but subconsciously I'm sure it did. Because growing up, I know that there were some colors I wouldn't wear because I felt they don't go with dark color skin. You keep hearing it all the time. And if I wear dark, I remember people would say, don't wear black, it makes you look darker. If you wear light, don't wear light colors because contrast ज़्यादा दिखता है. ये मत पहनो, ये तो fair skin पे suit करता है. ये मत करो, all the time being reminded. So you build a defense mechanism against it, and maybe that was that, but it didn't impact me as much. I didn't think that it really needed a standalone attention. It was only in 2013 that an organization called Women of Worth, they're from Chennai, they approached me and said, would you support this campaign? And I said, yeah, because there's so many young people who come to me, especially young women, who come to me and say, I feel like I'm being seen now. Somebody's at least talking about it in the way it needs to be.
How did you handle your makeup man?
It was not just the makeup man. It could be the director, it could be the cinematographer, and when you play a lower class, lower caste, a village woman, a slum dweller, then my skin is perfect. I don't need to put any makeup. They are fine with it. But when I would do a upper middle class, an educated, the class that you and I come from, and there are more stereotypes there. They would say, nahi, ye aisa thoda padha likha character hai, and she's an office goer, this, that, and the other. Can you lighten your skin? I've had a lot of arguments on it, and thankfully they have mostly conceded. But sometimes I've seen after the film is made, and when I see myself, they've lightened my skin in post-production. I think our obsession with fair skin goes so deep that even our matrimonial ads in all these years, all the strides we have made in this feminist struggle, we are still burdened by the standards of beauty. And whoever you are, if you're a woman, you have to look a certain way. And if you're not, you're just not good enough.
Coming back to your personal life, you've been talking about your films. Were you ever drawn towards following your father's footsteps and take to the canvas?
Well, I wish I had at least painted, even if I had not become a painter. The only thing I could rebel about was not paint, because everyone said, "Oh, you're Jatin Das's daughter. You're
I was
going
just
to be a
coming to
painter."
that. I was just
Yeah,
coming to
because
that.
you know, children are always burdened. कि अच्छा भाई आप भी father painter है तो शायद आप भी painter बनोगे. And I used to say नहीं, painting नहीं करनी. And I think around 10 or something, I just decided I was not going to paint.
It is said about you, there are elements of Aparna Sen and commonalities with Shabana Azmi and Jaya Bahaduri. Bahaduri then. Does this flatter you, or would you shun such comparisons?
Comparisons are inevitable. For the longest time, I heard that, you know, I look like Smita Patil or I acted in the film kind of films. I mean, it was a big compliment at that time, because I was, of course, a great admirer of all these people that you speak about. But I think each person is their own, you know, and sometimes I felt like Smita Patil, I was compared with Smita Patil only because we were dark. And the fact that, you know, in an industry of light-skinned people, like how she was, here am I, you know, so that was the comparison. So I don't know, I mean, I'm neither flattered nor, you know, upset about it.
Everyone knows a lot about your father, about your famous painter father, but very little is known about your mother. Tell me, who influenced you more?
In the literary field, or, you know, I go to a lot of places where people have come up to me and said, "Are you Varsha Das's daughter?" My mother is a writer. She began as a Gujarati editor and then was the director of the National Book Trust. Then she was the director of the National Gandhi Museum and is busier than me. So my mother and father, I think, both influenced me in different ways. And they separated when I was really young. I was about 6. So I grew up in these two homes that were diametrically different. My father would leave everything open. My mother would lock everything. My father would switch on more lights than needed. My mother would sometimes switch off more lights than needed. So it was like, you know, I was hoping that I would kind of balance it off. But I think my discipline, my sense of time, I totally owe it to my mother. But my father's impulsiveness, his emotionality, comes from him. I want to believe that I'm 50% of both of them, the good and the bad.
So my next question is kind of irrelevant, which is, are you more your father's daughter or your mother's?
Well, both in different ways. You know, as you grow older, you see them not just as your parents, but as people. I have very different relationships with both my parents, and I think they're like your two eyes. You can't really compare.
Tell me about your home in Baripada and Udiya food, which you say is not available anywhere else.
You've done a lot of homework, so thank you. This is probably the first time I've ever been asked about this, and somebody has actually called my hometown by its name. When I would go to Baripada, there was a pond, वहाँ पर मच्छी पकड़ते थे, and the Odia food is actually fantastic. Anybody who's gone to Odisha will vouch for it. Sadly, it's not on a bucket list of most people, but for instance, I shot Zvigato in Odisha, and my entire crew was like, how come we hadn't heard of this place? And we love the food. It's a very nuanced, sophisticated cuisine actually. So Baripada was all the cousins, my grandmother. It was a lovely, lovely time. I had a great childhood and, you know, sort of a more village life in that sense. Bathroom घर के बाहर हुआ करता था. पास में वो जगन्नाथ मंदिर था. मेरी grandmother के साथ हम लोग जाते थे. हमारे यहाँ तो TV भी नहीं था. My parents didn't have TV for about 8 years when every home had it in Delhi. So in Bombay, we used to watch those black and white Chitrahar, and, you know, that was my only exposure to films. And both my grandparents on my mother's side were Gandhians. So a lot of my bedtime stories were Gandhian stories, you know, and how they struggled and the freedom movement. I really owe being grounded and to be able to navigate this, my social advocacy world and my film world with ease, because I can straddle those two worlds quite easily. 5-star में भी हम रहते हैं, यहाँ हमें दरी पे सोना हो तो हम दरी पे भी सो सकते हैं. And I think that I owe it to the childhood that my parents gave me.
Talking of Gandhi, you signed a petition on clemency to Ajmal Kasab.
I'm glad you're asking, because there has been, you know, I had signed a petition against death penalty per se, as which many countries it's been abolished. because lot of research has been done and found that death penalty actually does not decrease crime. A hasty conviction decreases crime, you know. So it was against just death penalty per se. Nobody's name is mentioned. But in today's time, as you would know better than me, that every word is twisted, lies told 100 times seem to sound like truth. And then you can go hoarse trying to, you know, defend yourself or prove your innocence. You know, it is not about any particular person. It is the concept of death penalty. There have also been cases where later they have found out that that person was innocent. And it's irreversible.
Isn't this kind of advocating the Gandhian philosophy? If someone slaps me, give the other cheek. Would you follow that?
I don't know if I would give the other cheek, but I wouldn't slap back. Because I truly believe that that is an endless process. You slap me, I'll slap you, you'll slap me twice, I'll slap you twice. Where is it going to end? You know, so I am definitely a believer of non-violence. I'm a mother of a 13-year-old child who's going to be 13 next month. And you know, what kind of world do I want to have for him? What am I going to teach him?
Tell me about motherhood.
So it has changed my life. You know, I mean, I became a mother very late. I was 40 and I was unsure. I had kind of given up on the idea of being a mother. I'm not saying that a woman is incomplete without a child and all that. I don't believe at all. Having said that, personally, this experience has definitely, I don't know, done something to me. But as the child grows and as you realize that that whole process, you're seeing a living being come into life. You see your own reflection. My child has taught me a lot. We have great conversations.
You once said about yourself, and I quote, "Over the years I have travelled, but I'm still searching for a place to call home." Has that search ended?
Nope, it's not ended. Although I keep telling my child that if you study anywhere, I'm going to just follow you. I'm just going to come to that city wherever. So I don't think anything is a home, and that's why I love traveling.
Let me take you on something else that you said. I don't know what my real calling is. And have you really figured it out?
In the last 3-4 months, I feel maybe it is to direct more. Like till now, the films just kind of, I just felt compelled to tell these stories. Now I'm open to reading other people's scripts and, you know, doing other genres maybe. So I think I do enjoy filmmaking. I have multiple interests. I like acting also, I like writing also, I like traveling, and all these things can find their way into it. You don't have to do only one. Calling is when you really know that this is it. So I'm torn and I flow with then what I'm feeling at that time.
Some interesting anecdotes working with Kapil Sharma and his coming late every time, and then when he would apologize, your heart would, to quote you, melt.
It did. No, I think he's a wonderful person and we come from very different worlds. And, you know, I bought a TV last month. Jab IPL ho raha tha, my son wanted it, so I'm like, chalo. But for 7 years or so, I didn't have any television. So I had not seen any of his show. Of course, I knew about him. I knew what he looked like, but that was it. And I was surfing something and suddenly a clip of him and Karan Johar presenting an award function popped up. And I saw him and I thought, well, he looks really natural and there's something about him that's just, you know, very vulnerable, natural, uninhibited. And I thought, why don't I ask him? So when I called up my casting director and I said, unka number kahin se dhoond ke lao, he was like, ma'am, he's totally not right for it. And he's not going to do it. And he's a comedian. You don't watch TV, so you don't know. This is a different kind of a role. This character doesn't smile throughout the film, like only once at the end when you feel that sense of relief. And I said, no, but you know, I just want to try it out. So I went and met him. I messaged him. He immediately replied. In fact, he had seen Firak and Manto, so I was very sheepish that I had not seen any of his shows. But we just got along, and I think a lot of our core thoughts were actually quite similar. Of course, he hasn't done that much of acting, and a stand-up comedian is used to just standing and kind of responding to laughters. So those I had to work on, and on his diction.
I was just coming to that. Transforming a Punjabi to a Bihari.
It was tough because Easterners speak slowly, and he was racing through his lines initially, but I got him to record. I mean, I got some recordings of his dialogue. through somebody who was staying in Ranchi, a theatre person, and I gave it to him, and he did a lot of homework. I spent a lot of time with him, and yeah, we sort of together built the character of Manas, and I think he was wonderful.
Another quote of yours.
Oh God.
Life and the disturbing realities continue to inspire me. This is what you had said. Tell me about the eye-openers, bitter experiences and memories you would perhaps wish erased.
There are so many. There are so many things. I think if you're just living, you are bound to be disturbed because everything around us obviously is not going as we want it, right? Everyone goes through their ups and downs of journeys. Even if you fall in love with somebody and it doesn't work out and you separate amicably like friends. You know, you sometimes grow apart. So for me, I don't think there's anything that I erase because in fact, one grows more from all the stumbling and falling and mistakes and all of that. You know, that's what actually makes you grow, that makes you reflect, that makes you think. So really, no regrets.
Finally, which description fits you best? And I'm asking your own opinion.
Okay.
Activist, actor, director, writer.
All and none, in the sense, a little bit of everything. So they all feed into each other.
Nandita Das, thank you very much. Thank you for your time and thank you for taking all the questions and
Thank
meeting
you.
us in this busy schedule of yours.
Thank you, Kumkum Chadha. Now that you're saying my full name, I shall say yours. Thank you very much. It's absolutely delightful to talk to you after so many years, in fact. It's always a pleasure to talk to people who care for the things that you're going to talk. Thank you for asking some new questions as well.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank
Nandita.
you.